While politicians argue and corporations fight for control, true power lies with mafia kingpins. Cefalù is a ghost who rules with no traces and zero footprints. Danny Tantillo brought back old-school violence, and Vittorio Amuso quietly commands his criminal empire from behind bars. These are the secret rulers of America's underworld. Liborio Salvatore, Barney Bellomo. While most Americans have never heard of him, his name strikes fear into the hearts of both criminals and law enforcement alike. Liborio Salvatore, Barney Bellomo, born January 8, 1957, is widely regarded as the boss of the Genovese crime family, one of the 5 families dominating organized crime in New York City, and considered the most powerful mafia faction in the United States. What makes Bellomo truly terrifying isn't just his power, it's his invisibility. Known by aliases like Barney, Skinny Guy, and Barney Bloom, Bellomo has earned descriptions like Invisible Man and Ghost. He avoids media attention, uses intermediaries like Capo Peter, Petey Red, Di Chiara, and later Michael Ragusa to relay orders, insulating himself from law enforcement. At age 20, Bellomo was inducted into the Genovese crime family in 1977 during a ceremony above an East Harlem pizzeria. His meteoric rise was unprecedented. He quickly rose to capo in his mid-20s due to his intelligence and connections, mentored by Vincent Chin Gigante, the Genovese boss, who saw him as a potential successor. By the 1980s, Bellomo was reportedly earning millions through bookmaking, gambling, and loan sharking, investing in legitimate businesses like real estate, construction, waste management, and vending machines. The apex of his early power came in 1990, when following Gigante's indictment in the Windows case, Bellomo was appointed acting boss of the Genovese family at age 33. Think about that for a moment. At an age when most people are just starting their careers, Bellomo was running one of America's most powerful criminal organizations. But power in the underworld comes with a price written in indictments and prison sentences. In 1996, he was indicted on federal charges of extortion and labor racketeering, controlling labor unions tied to the Jacob Javits Convention Center in Manhattan, extracting payoffs from construction unions and garbage hauling companies. In February 1997, he pleaded guilty to lesser charges, avoiding murder allegations, and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Even behind bars, Bellomo's influence didn't wane. While imprisoned, he was indicted on July 13, 2001, for money laundering related to the Genovese family's control of the International Longshoremen's Association, accused of hiding money embezzled from the ILA's pension fund between 1996 and 1997. What's most chilling about Bellomo is how he's adapted to the digital age. He reportedly uses encrypted communication such as Signal to evade surveillance, reflecting the family's adaptation to modern technology. He favors casual attire like jeans and hoodies to blend in, contrasting with stereotypical mobster imagery. Today, the FBI and sources like Jerry Capicci's Gangland News confirmed Bellomo as the official boss, succeeding a period of limbo after Vincent Gigante's 2005 death. He is considered the most powerful mafia boss in the U.S., potentially the boss of bosses among the 5 families. Bellomo stayed low, but this next boss is a ghost. No footprints, no traces. Even law enforcement can't pin him down. Domenico Italian Dom Cefalù, known as Italian Dom from 18th Avenue, or the Greaseball, this Sicilian-born mobster has been a significant figure in the Gambino crime family, one of the 5 major mafia families in New York City. Born on January 10, 1947 in Palermo, Sicily, Cefalù emigrated to the United States in the late 1970s, settling in Brooklyn, New York, particularly in the mob-dominated area of Bensonhurst along 18th Avenue. But this wasn't just another immigrant seeking the American dream. This was a man whose Sicilian heritage and connections to Italian organized crime families, such as the Inzerillo, Spatola, and DiMaggio families, facilitated his rise within the mafia. Cefalù's criminal resume reads like a masterclass in international drug trafficking. In June 1981, he was arrested and charged with conspiracy to import heroin and violating bank secrecy laws. He was convicted in March 1982 for his role in a major heroin smuggling operation, which involved importing at least 100 pounds of heroin between 1979 and 1980, valued at approximately $90 million. What's remarkable about Cefalù is his unwavering loyalty to the Code of Silence. He served 6 years of an 8-year sentence, demonstrating his loyalty by refusing to cooperate with authorities, earning him respect within the mafia. In a world where cooperation with law enforcement can mean the difference between freedom and decades behind bars, Cefalù chose prison over betrayal. His commitment to the Mafia Code was tested again in the 1990s. In 1992, Cefalù was summoned by a New York grand jury to testify in an investigation involving Pasquale Conte, the captain of the Sicilian Zip crew, which operated in Queens and Brooklyn. He refused to testify after answering a few questions, leading to an 18-month sentence for civil contempt. In 1990 or 1991, Cefalù was inducted as a made man of the Gambino Gambino crime family by then-boss John Gotti. The early 2000s brought new challenges. As part of the 2008 Operation Old Bridge investigation, Cefalu was indicted on charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and extortion. But Cefalu's rise through the Gambino hierarchy was methodical and strategic. He was named underboss by acting boss Jackie Nose D'Amico in 2005, overseeing the Sicilian faction of the Gambino family. In July 2011, Cefalu became the official boss of the Gambino crime family, succeeding Peter Gotti, who was sentenced to life imprisonment in 2002. His ascension marked the end of the Gotti era, which had dominated the family since 1985 and represented a return to a traditional, low-key approach to mafia operations. What makes Cefalu particularly dangerous is his invisibility. Unlike John Gotti's high-profile persona, Cefalu is known for his cautious and discreet approach, avoiding media attention and law enforcement scrutiny. Since his release in 2009, he has remained largely off the radar, a rarity for a mafia boss. Cefalu played it safe, but the next boss is unhinged, unpredictable, and violent. Michael "The Nose" Mancuso. Born July 18, 1955 in New York City, this prominent figure in the American Mafia serves as the boss of the Bonanno crime family, one of the 5 families operating in New York City. Born in the Bronx to an Italian-American family, his nickname "The Nose" is derived from his prominent facial feature. But behind this almost comical moniker lies a man whose capacity for violence would shock even hardened criminals. The most shocking chapter in Mancuso's early life reveals the depths of his violent nature. In August 1984, Mancuso fatally shot his wife Evelina in the head during a domestic dispute. The cold calculation of what happened next is chilling. He left her body on a bench in front of Jacobi Hospital in the Bronx. Mancuso pleaded guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to 10 years in state prison. This conviction delayed his formal induction into the Bonanno crime family as it violated certain mafia protocols. Even by mafia standards, killing one's own wife was beyond the pale. Yet Mancuso's journey was just beginning. After his release from prison in 1994, Mancuso joined a Bronx-based Bonanno crew and became a made man by the late 1990s. The murders that followed demonstrated Mancuso's value as an enforcer. In May 2005, former Bonanno boss Joseph Massino, who became a cooperating witness, implicated Mancuso in the 1999 murder of Bonanno capo Gerlando George from Canada, Ciacia. Ciacia was a significant figure representing the Montreal Mafia in New York, and the murder was orchestrated to avoid retaliation from the powerful Rizzuto crime family in Canada. But perhaps his most notorious crime came in 2004. In November 2004, acting on orders from then-acting boss Vincent "Vinny" Gorgeous Basciano, Mancuso orchestrated the murder of Bonanno associate Randolph Pizzolo. Pizzolo was killed for botching a construction project for Basciano, shot by Bonanno soldier Anthony "Ace" Aiello in an industrial section of Brooklyn on November 30, 2004. The ultimate testament to his power came in 2013. In June 2013, while still incarcerated, Mancuso was named the official boss of the Bonanno crime family, a position he has held since. He controlled the family through Bronx associates and underboss Thomas DiFiore, but freedom came with strict conditions. After his release from federal custody on March 12, 2019, Mancuso was placed on supervised release. However, he violated the terms of his parole by associating with organized crime figures. Federal wiretaps captured him discussing mundane topics, such as pasta sauce preparation, with Colombo soldier Michael Uvino in October 2020, which was a violation of his parole conditions. This next mafia boss built an empire from the shadows, and that's exactly how he likes it. Lorenzo "Lore" Menino. Lorenzo "Lore" Menino, born July 27, 1959, is a significant figure in the Gambino crime family, identified by the FBI as a powerful capo regime and reportedly holding roles such as street boss, acting boss, and consigliere at various times. Born in New York to parents from Torretta, Sicily, Menino is closely tied to the Sicilian faction of the Gambino family, which has historically been influential within the organization. His Sicilian roots connect him to traditional mafia networks, including partnerships with the Inserio family in Sicily. What makes Menino particularly dangerous is his ability to learn from the mistakes of flashier predecessors. He is known for maintaining a secretive, low-key presence, avoiding the public spotlight that characterized earlier Gambino bosses like John Gotti. This discretion has helped him evade significant law enforcement attention since his release from prison in 2004. But Menino's criminal history reveals a man who's paid his dues in the violent world of organized crime. In 1994, he pleaded guilty to drug trafficking and conspiracy to murder Francesco Francesco Oliveri in 1988. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison and fined $25,000, released in 2004. Salvatore "Sammy the Bull" Gravano's testimony implicated Mannino in Oliveri's murder, racketeering, and violating the Gambino family's rule against drug dealing. Even after his release, Mannino continued to operate in the criminal underworld. In 2022, he was reportedly targeted by an FBI investigation into racketeering in the New York-New Jersey construction industry. He was named an unindicted co-conspirator in an extortion case, and in a 2018 case, Gambino soldier Paul Simplice identified Mannino as his supervisor in a loan sharking operation. Perhaps most significantly, in 2023, Mannino and Genovese boss Liborio Bellomo reportedly urged Bonanno boss Michael Mancuso to halt a murder plot, indicating Mannino's influence in inter-family disputes. This level of cross-family influence suggests that Mannino operates at the very highest levels of American organized crime. The next mafia boss adapted traditional mafia brutality to modern criminal enterprises, Diego "Danny" Tantillo. The evolution of American organized crime is perhaps best exemplified by figures like Diego "Danny" Tantillo, who represent how traditional mafia brutality has adapted to modern criminal enterprises. Diego "Danny" Tantillo is a soldier in the Gambino crime family, not a mafia boss, but a mid-level MAID member, meaning he was formally inducted into the Gambino family. Tantillo is 48 years old and resides in Freehold, New Jersey. What makes Tantillo's story particularly significant is how it demonstrates the Gambino family's continued ability to recruit and develop new generations of criminals. He became a MAID member in October 2019, as evidenced by text messages and a photograph from the induction ceremony. He was arrested in November 2023 and again in June 2024, charged with multiple offenses related to organized crime activities. He was charged with racketeering conspiracy under the RICO Act in November 2023, alongside 9 other alleged Gambino members and associates. But perhaps most disturbing are the violent tactics Tantillo allegedly employed. Starting in late 2017, Tantillo, along with associates Vito Rappa, Francesco Vicari, and Kyle Johnson, allegedly extorted a karting business owner in the New York City area, demanding monthly payments of $1,000. Tantillo reportedly showed John Doe 1 a metal baseball bat, stating it was for him, which was later seized from his vehicle. When intimidation wasn't enough, the violence escalated dramatically. In September 2020, when John Doe 1 attempted to stop payments, the group allegedly set fire to the steps of his home while his wife and children were inside. In the June 2024 indictment, Tantillo was charged in connection with a Staten Island-based illegal sports gambling operation that handled over $22.7 million in bets. This operation was part of a broader racketeering scheme that also involved a loan sharking operation that generated approximately $500,000 per week from loan payments. American organized crime has seen monsters, but none compare to the next boss, Vittorio "Little Vic" Amuso. Born November 4, 1934, in Canarsie, Brooklyn, Amuso is the long-standing boss of the Lucchese crime family, one of New York City's 5 families, and is considered one of the most ruthless mafia leaders in American history. Known as the Deadly Don, Amuso has been serving a life sentence since 1992 at the Federal Correctional Complex in Butner, North Carolina, for murder and racketeering charges. His reign, particularly during the late 1980s and early 1990s, alongside his underboss Anthony "Gas Pipe" Casso, is notorious for its extreme violence, marking one of the bloodiest periods in American mafia history. His early criminal activities revealed both his ambition and his willingness to engage in high-risk, high-reward enterprises. In 1977, Amuso was arrested in a heroin smuggling operation linked to the Sicilian Mafia, involving a pipeline from Bangkok, Thailand. He was also part of the Bypass Gang, a professional burglary crew that stole over $100 million in merchandise from banks and jewelry stores in Manhattan and Long Island. Amuso's rise to power within the Lucchese family was marked by violence and betrayal. Luongo disappeared later that year, and it's widely believed Amuso, then Luongo's driver and bodyguard, killed him with Casso's help to eliminate a rival and secure the leadership role. In January 1987, Amuso officially became the boss of the Lucchese crime family, with Casso as his underboss. This marked the beginning of a violent era, as the duo shifted the family's reputation from one of the most peaceful among the 5 families to one of extreme brutality. One of the most spectacular and failed assassination attempts in mafia history involved Amuso's participation in a plot against John Gotti. Amuso, Casso, and Genovese boss Vincent "Chin" Gigante conspired to kill Gambino boss John Gotti in retaliation for Gotti's unsanctioned murder of Paul Castellano. On April 13, 1986, a car bomb intended for Gotti killed Gambino underboss Frank DeSico instead. Amuso and Casso reportedly watched the bombing from a parked car, with the bomb planted by Herbert Pate. The murders that Amuso ordered reveal a pattern of extreme paranoia and brutality. In August 24, 1990, Amuso ordered the killing of Lucchese soldier Bruno Facciola, suspecting him of cooperating with prosecutors. Facciola was lured to an auto body shop, shot, stabbed, and had a dead canary placed in his mouth as a warning to potential informants. The canary in the mouth became one of the most iconic symbols of mafia brutality, sending a clear message about the fate of those suspected of singing to authorities. In June 1992, Amuso was convicted in a Brooklyn federal court on 54 counts, including 9 murders, 3 attempted murders, racketeering, extortion, gambling, and labor corruption. He was sentenced to life without parole. What makes Amuso's story even more remarkable is his continued influence from prison. Despite his life sentence, Amuso has maintained significant control over the Lucchese family from prison. In 2017, he orchestrated a leadership change through coded letters, replacing acting boss Matthew Madonna, demonstrating his enduring authority. Even from behind bars, Amuso called the shots, and the man he chose to take over is the next name you need to know: Michael "Big Mike" DeSantis. Born in Brooklyn, New York, DeSantis has served as the acting boss of the Lucchese crime family since 2017, taking over from Matthew Madonna, as directed by the imprisoned official boss, Vittorio Vic Amuso. DeSantis entered the Lucchese crime family through his close association with Vic Amuso and was formally inducted as a made member in November 1989 during a ceremony conducted by Amuso underboss, Anthony Gaspip Casso, and other high-ranking members. But by the time of his induction, DeSantis had already proven his value to the organization through acts of extreme violence. On December 7, 1988, DeSantis, along with Richard Pagliarulo, was involved in the murder of Angelo Segona in Brooklyn. Segona was killed at the behest of Anthony Casso because he was harassing the daughter of Casso's neighbor, who no longer wished to date him. But it was DeSantis' next murder that truly sealed his reputation within the Lucchese family. On September 17, 1989, DeSantis was involved in the murder of John "Sonny" Morrissey, a business agent for Local 580 of the Ornamental Ironworkers Union, who was part of a window replacement scheme that defrauded the New York City Housing Authority of millions. DeSantis is noted for burying Morrissey's body, which earned him his maid status shortly afterward. Perhaps the most revealing incident in DeSantis' violent resume occurred in 1991. DeSantis was part of a plot to kill acting boss Alphonse Darco at the Kimberly Hotel in Manhattan, alongside capos Anthony Barata and Frank Lastarino and soldier Frank Federico. DeSantis arrived at the hotel wearing a bulletproof vest and carrying a gun, but Darco noticed the weapon and fled while DeSantis was in the bathroom hiding it, leading to Darco's defection to the government. In December 1992, DeSantis was arrested and charged with 2 murders and participation in 5 failed mob hits ordered by Amuso. He was convicted and sentenced to 18 years in prison, serving until his release on June 28, 2010. His ascension to acting boss came through a demonstration of the continuing power of Vic Amuso, even from behind bars. In 2017, Amuso, serving a life sentence, sent a coded letter to underboss Stephen Crea, designating DeSantis as the new acting boss to replace Matthew Madonna. The letter included a threat of violence against the Bronx faction if they resisted, which ensured a smooth transition as Madonna and Crea stepped aside to avoid conflict. The next boss ran an underground gambling empire worth $50 million, and that was just one piece of his criminal kingdom. Vincent Basciano Jr. Vincent Basciano Jr. is the son of Vincent "Vinny" Gorgeous Basciano, a notorious former acting boss of the Bonanno crime family. Vincent Basciano Jr., along with his brothers Stephen and Joseph, has been implicated in criminal enterprises, particularly drug trafficking and illegal gambling, reflecting the Bonanno family's broader illicit activities. Their father's shadow looms large over their criminal careers. Vincent "Vinny" Gorgeous Basciano Sr. was known for his ownership of the Hello Gorgeous beauty salon and meticulous grooming, but was a high-profile figure whose convictions for murder and racketeering left a leadership vacuum. The most significant criminal case involving Vincent Basciano Jr. demonstrates how modern organized crime has evolved to embrace large-scale drug trafficking. In 2013, Vincent Basciano Jr., then 32 years old, was arrested as part of a large-scale marijuana trafficking operation. He pleaded guilty in 2014 to participating in a conspiracy to distribute marijuana, which involved shipping large quantities of marijuana from California to New York for distribution in the Bronx area. The scale of this operation was staggering. The trafficking ring was described as a significant enterprise, with authorities discovering over 40,000 pounds of marijuana in a warehouse linked to Genovese crime family soldier Salvatore Larca, who was also involved. Vincent Basciano Jr. was sentenced on December 3, 2014, to 24 months in federal prison by U.S. District Judge Richard Sullivan in Manhattan. He was also ordered to forfeit $2 million and to serve 1 year of house arrest following his release. But the marijuana trafficking trafficking was just one aspect of the Basciano brothers' criminal activities. In October 2012, Vincent Basciano Jr. was among 25 individuals charged in connection with a $50 million illegal gambling enterprise that operated across 5 states, from New York to California. The operation was described as a mob-linked enterprise with connections to the Bonanno crime family through Vincent Basciano Jr.'s father. The sophistication of this gambling operation reveals how organized crime has adapted to the digital age. The gambling ring used offshore websites, phone betting systems, and dummy accounts to evade detection, with couriers transporting cash profits to and from Panama and Costa Rica. The enterprise reportedly took in $50 million in profit over an 18-month period. While Vincent Basciano Jr. avoided murder plots, the next boss thrived in bloodshed. Alphonse Persico, known as Little Alley Boy, Alphonse was born on February 8, 1954 in New York City and was the son of Carmine Persico, the longtime boss of the Colombo family. He grew up in South Brooklyn and Bensonhurst, and unlike many mafiosi, was a promising student, graduating high school and briefly attending St. John's University before dropping out after his sophomore year to pursue a career in organized crime, following in his father's footsteps. What makes Alphonse's story particularly tragic is the choice he made to abandon legitimate opportunities for a life of violence and crime. His father, Carmine Persico, nicknamed the Snake, was a dominant figure in the Mafia, ruling the Colombo family from 1973 until his death in 2019, despite spending much of that time in prison. When Carmine Persico was sentenced to a combined 139 years in prison in 1987, following convictions in the Mafia Commission trial and a separate Colombo family racketeering trial, he designated Alphonse as acting boss to maintain family control. Alphonse himself was convicted in the 1986 Colombo trial for racketeering, receiving a 12-year sentence. The sentencing judge, John F. Keenan, urged him to abandon his criminal life, noting he would still be relatively young upon release. But Alphonse remained committed to the Mafia. The most infamous crime associated with Alphonse Persico reveals the depth of his paranoia and ruthlessness as a leader. One of his most notorious crimes was ordering the murder of William Wild Bill Cutolo, the Colombo family underboss, on May 26, 1999. Cutolo was seen as a potential rival who could challenge Alphonse's control, especially as Alphonse sought to solidify his position as acting boss after his release from prison. The method of Cutolo's murder demonstrates the calculated brutality that characterized Alphonse's leadership. Cutolo was lured to a meeting in a Brooklyn park, taken to an apartment by Colombo hitmen Thomas Gioeli, Dino Calabro, and Dino Saraceno, and murdered. His body was buried in a field in Farmingdale, New York, and remained undiscovered until October 2008. Alphonse was convicted of this murder in a second trial in 2007, alongside underboss John Jackie DeRoss, and sentenced to life in prison without parole on February 27, 2009. In October 1999, he was arrested on federal charges of racketeering, loan sharking, and bank fraud. A search of his Brooklyn apartment revealed $25,000 in cash, records of extensive loan sharking, credit card fraud activities, and false identification papers. This discovery revealed the breadth of his criminal enterprises, from traditional mafia activities like loan sharking to modern white-collar crimes like identity fraud. Mobsters usually burn out or get whacked, but the next boss outlasted them all, decade after deadly decade. Benjamin Benji Castellazzo. Born around 1938, Castellazzo has been a longtime member of the Colombo crime family, rising to the rank of underboss and acting boss at various points in his career. Known as the Claw, due to his ability to get his hands on everything, this nickname reflects his involvement in a wide array of criminal enterprises. What makes Castellazzo's story particularly remarkable is his longevity in the criminal world. His career in the Mafia began in the 1950s, and he remained active into his 80s, a rarity even among seasoned mobsters. As of 2021, Castellazzo was 83 years old and resided in Manahawkin, New Jersey. Castellazzo's earliest documented crime reveals the evolution of his criminal career from street-level theft to sophisticated racketeering. In the 1950s, Castellazzo was convicted for hijacking a carpeting truck, marking the start of his documented criminal career. By 2011, he was identified as the acting underboss, and at times he served as acting boss, overseeing the family's operations when the boss was incapacitated or imprisoned. In January 2011, Castellazzo was among 91 members and associates of various LCN families, charged in a massive federal crackdown, described as the largest single-day operation against La Cosa Nostra. Castellazzo pleaded guilty in 2012 to one count of racketeering conspiracy, specifically for shaking down a construction company and involvement in a dispute over a pizza sauce recipe at a famed Brooklyn pizzeria. Despite claiming he was finished with criminal life, Castellazzo's pattern of recidivism continued. In September 2021, Castellazzo, then 83, was indicted again as part of a 19-count 20-count federal indictment targeting the Colombo crime family's leadership, including boss Andrew "Mush" Russo and consigliere Ralph Di Matteo. Castellazzo pleaded guilty to money laundering conspiracy and was sentenced to 15 months in prison in 2024, along with restitution of $280,890. Like this video? Click on the card showing on your screen for more.